Express line. Oh no! Here comes Gordon. I have to rescue Toby. So Thomas puffed quickly back to the points. He changed over onto the express line. Thomas buffered up behind Toby and shunted him as fast as he could. Help! 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 Don't worry, Toby, said Thomas, and he shunted Toby off the express line and into a siding. Gordon chuffed past. He didn't see Toby. I rescued you.
No, you didn't. Gordon was bringing a mechanic to fix me.
Thomas knew he'd made another mistake. I haven't rescued anyone. I'm not a hero. And now the firefighter won't get to the medal ceremony on time. Thomas felt terrible. Just then, Percy puffed up. Percy, will you go and pick up the firefighter for me? Percy was very pleased. You'll have to hurry. The medal ceremony starts soon. So Percy raced away. Thomas knew what he had to do now. Thomas collected the mechanic from Gordon and took him to fix Toby. Then Thomas found Harvey. He took Harvey to move the fallen tree. Harvey soon cleared the track. Thomas puffed sadly back to Tidmouth. He saw Bertie the bus. The children were standing around him. What's the matter? I'm stuck in the mud. Now I can't take the children to the medal ceremony. Shall I take the children for you? Yes, please. So all the children climbed on board Annie and Clarabelle. And Thomas puffed away. Thomas arrived at the medal ceremony just in time. Sir Topham Hatt and Lady Hatt gave the firefighter his medal. The children were very happy. You're a hero.
And you're our hero, Thomas.
Thomas, the hero, beamed from buffer to buffer. Gordon biffed straight into them. The logs started to roll down the hill. Bust my buffers. Those logs will block the lower track. I must stop Stanley. But Gordon didn't know which track to take to find Stanley. Gordon was lost. What have you done? Gordon knew his shortcut hadn't worked. Now he needed to ask for help. Can you help me, Ben? I have to get to the lower track as fast as possible. Of course. Ben was happy to help. Soon the track was clear, and Gordon steamed away. He had to warn Stanley. Then Gordon arrived at a fork in the track. He didn't know which way to go next. Gordon saw Oliver and Toad puffing towards him. Please, stop! I'm lost. I need to get to the lower track as quickly as possible. Oliver was happy to help. Take the left track. And Gordon raced on. Gordon arrived at another fork in the track. He didn't know which way to go. Then he saw Duck chuffing over a bridge. Please stop! I'm lost and I'm in a hurry. Duck was happy to help.
You must take the track on the right.
Thank you. And Gordon steamed off. At last, Gordon puffed onto the lower track. He could see the logs had fallen across Stanley's line. Then he saw Stanley chuffing around the bend. Gordon blew his whistle long and loud. "Stop, Stanley! Stop!" Stanley applied his brakes and screeched to a halt, just in front of the logs. Soon, Rocky arrived. He cleared the logs in no time. "I'm sorry, Stanley. This was all my fault. I wanted to take a shortcut. I wanted to pick up the very important passengers. But now, I want you to collect them." Stanley was delighted. Later, the very important passengers were all on board Stanley's passenger cars. Stanley felt very proud. Gordon puffed in to collect the workmen. "I won't be taking any shortcuts this time." Stanley laughed, and Gordon smiled at his new friend. Now Diesel would see the photographer, and he would find out about the new photograph. So Thomas wished lots of steam. It billowed from his boiler and filled the whole station. So Diesel didn't see the photographer, and he trundled straight by. "The steam has made my camera wet." "I'm sorry, sir. We'll have to wait for it to dry. Tell the engines to come back later to Tidmouth." So all the engines came back later, instead of doing their jobs. At last, the photographer was ready. No one had noticed Diesel wasn't there. Thomas was very relieved. But just then, Diesel oiled round the bend. Diesel was surprised to see all the engines. He screeched to a halt. Rolls of bunting went everywhere. "No one told me there was another photograph." "But I asked Thomas to tell everyone." All the engines looked at Thomas. Thomas felt terrible. Sir Topham Hatt was very cross. "Gordon, you were meant to pick up Mr. Giggles, the famous clown. Emily, you were meant to pick up the brass band. And James, you were meant to pick up the bunting and decorations. None of you arrived, so Diesel had to do all your jobs. And now he's late to do his own work." Thomas was very upset. "It's all my fault, sir. I didn't want Diesel to know about the new photograph. In the last one, he moved right in front of me, on purpose." "I did not. The photographer told me to move." "I did. Perhaps you rolled too far." Thomas knew then he'd made a mistake. "I'm sorry, Diesel. I was wrong to think you did it on purpose. And I'm very sorry for causing all this trouble, sir." Soon all the engines were lined up. The new photograph was taken. "Sir, if I do all Diesel's jobs, can he collect the new billboard?" "That's a wonderful idea, Thomas." Diesel agreed. For the rest of the day, Thomas worked hard. He did all Diesel's jobs. And Diesel picked up the new billboard just in time for the celebrations. It was a wonderful party. There were clowns and a brass band. Diesel and Thomas agreed that the new billboard was the best billboard they'd ever seen. Right at the end of the dockside, so Thomas had to wait. Just then, Percy arrived. "Hello, Thomas." Percy saw that Thomas was collecting the brass band. He was very upset. "Why didn't you tell me, Thomas? I tell you everything." Thomas felt terrible. He tooted his best friend's whistle. But Percy didn't whistle back. Thomas felt worse than ever. He puffed out of the docks with the brass band. Thomas arrived at Great Waterton. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting to welcome the brass band. Thomas still felt very unhappy. He had let his best friend down. Thomas, you must come back at the end of the concert to pick up the brass band. Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel.
Sir, can Percy pick up the band?
Percy is delivering the mail.
If I pull Percy's mail cars, then could he pick up the band?
Sir Topham Hatt agreed. So Annie and Clarabelle were uncoupled, and Thomas steamed off to find his best friend. Now Thomas really wanted to find Percy, but Percy was nowhere to be found. Thomas was worried. The concert would finish soon, and the band would be waiting. Then Thomas saw Percy. He was waiting at a signal.
I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was picking up the band. I'm busy. I have to pull the mail. I have something to tell you. I'll pull the mail for you. Then you can go and pick up the brass band and take them to the docks.
Percy beamed from buffer to buffer.
Thank you, Thomas.
He was very excited. Thomas buffered up to Percy's mail cars and quickly pulled away. He was pleased to help his best friend. Percy steamed off to pick up Annie and Clarabelle. He couldn't wait to collect the brass band. Later, Thomas puffed into Great Waterton. Percy was waiting for the band. You are my best friend, Percy. From now on, I will always tell you everything. And they tooted their best friend's whistle for everyone to hear. I'm not the man in the hills. I'm the miller. Thomas could see the miller was no longer white. All the flour had blown off him. Thomas was upset. The miller was worried. I still have to make the birthday cake for the party. And I have to make the ice cream. The little engines were cross. You said you'd bring the best present of all. Now Mr. Percival doesn't have any presents, and we're all late. Thomas felt terrible.
I wanted to find the most special present all on my own, but all I've done is spoil the party for everyone, especially for Mr. Percival.
So Thomas asked Skarloey and Reneus to take the party tent.
Please, hurry.
The dairyman and the miller boarded Thomas, and Thomas raced quickly away. Thomas was determined to put everything right. Thomas delivered the dairyman to the dairy to make the ice cream. And he delivered the miller to the mill. At last, the cake was baked, and Thomas chuffed quickly away with it. Thomas met Freddie at a junction. Freddie was on his way to the party.
I have to get the birthday cake to the party as quickly as I can. Please, help me find the shortcut.
Freddie was happy to help. Come on now, follow me. And together they puffed quickly away. Thomas and Freddie stopped at the Green Hills Junction. Suddenly, Thomas gasped.
Bust my boiler! Look!
There, all in white, was a man. He was carved into the hillside. He shone in the moonlight. It's the man in the hills! Thomas, you found him! Suddenly, Thomas had an idea.
Freddie, please bring Mr. Percival here with all the engines.
And Freddie raced away. Soon, all the engines were gathered by the man in the hills. The engines gasped.
and everyone was delighted. There, far away and high up in the high hills, Sir Handel was ready to tell his story. And Mr. Percival had the best birthday present ever. From all of the...
Still there. Toby mustn't see Flora. Flora, we are late to pick up my load. We must go to the docks.
If you say so, Thomas. And they puffed quickly away. At the docks, Thomas was coupled up to his large load to take to Great Waterton. Thomas was sure Toby would now be leading the parade.
Come on, Flora.
Flora's axles ached, but Thomas steamed strongly. Thomas and Flora puffed up to the junction. Then there was trouble. Flora had chuffed too far. She had run out of coal.
I'm sorry, Thomas.
Flora's wheels wobbled weakly. Thomas felt bad. He knew it was his fault. Then he heard a chuff, and a puff, and a ring of a bell. It was Toby.
Thomas, I've been waiting for you. Who's that?
Cinders and ashes. Toby had met Flora. Neither of them was at the parade. Thomas couldn't have felt worse. Sir Topham Hatt would be very cross.
Flora, this is Toby. Toby, this is Flora.
Toby looked very happy. Thomas was surprised.
I wanted to tell you, Thomas, that I was too scared to lead the parade by myself. But now, Flora and I can lead it together. I thought I knew what you wanted, Toby, but I was wrong.
Now Thomas had to quickly put right his mistake. Flora, take my coal. I'll pick up more.
Puff as fast as you can to Great Waterton.
Toby and Flora soon puffed away. Later, Thomas chuffed into Great Waterton. The parade was ready to leave. Thomas's flatbed was uncovered. Flora gasped. She had a wonderful new tram car. Toby was pleased. Thomas watched his two friends lead the first Great Waterton parade. The children cheered. The brass band boomed. Now I have another best friend, and she is a steam tram too. And Thomas smiled his happiest smile.
Thomas, you look all out of puff and pull. I'll take it for you.
No, thank you. And the tractor was coupled up to the end of Thomas's freight cars. Thomas huffed, and he puffed, and his wheels spun and spun. Come on, Thomas, the train's too heavy for you. Take the pressure off your pistons.
Couple me up.
But Thomas was determined to pull the train on his own.
We must not be late for your party.
Wheel turn by wheel turn, Thomas puffed away. Thomas and Hank arrived at Marin Station. Visitors waved at Thomas. Thomas wanted to whistle back, but he hadn't any spare steam.
Howdy, everybody. Thomas is a little overloaded right now. I'll whistle for him.
Hank had lots of steam, and Hank blew the longest and loudest whistle. Then there was trouble. Thomas had cracked the cylinder. The train was much too heavy. Oh no, now the deliveries won't be made. You won't be back in time for your welcome party. And I'm not a really useful engine, or even a really strong one.
Shucks, Thomas, I'm so sorry. That's too bad.
I wanted to show you that I wasn't just a fine little steam engine. I wanted to show you that I am really strong.
So,
I didn't want to ask for your help, but I do now. Please, Hank.
I'd be happy to help. You give the orders, I'll do the pushing.
Hank and Thomas dropped off Farmer McCall's tractor. The workmen were very sorry to see Thomas had broken down. Next, Hank and Thomas chuffed into the shunting yards. The yard manager was waiting. The stone cars were uncoupled.
I hope you're back on track really soon, Thomas.
Finally, Thomas and Hank delivered the new machines to the factory. Thank you, Thomas. Hank pushed Thomas back to Knapford Station. They arrived just in time for the party.
Thank you, Hank. Now all of Sodor knows what a strong engine you are.
Hank smiled.
And I know something, too. You're the engine everyone cheers for on Sodor. That's something to be proud of.
Thomas smiled. Hank was very special. He was a very special new friend.
And they puffed quickly away. Toby knew he had to hurry to Great Waterton. Then, Toby saw something bright shining on a sidetrack.
Maybe this is special. Now Sir Topham Hatt won't be cross with me,
Toby thought. But it wasn't something special. It was an old piece of metal stuck in the bushes. Then there was trouble. Toby had puffed so far looking for something special, he had run out of coal. Toby felt terrible. He hadn't found anything special. He hadn't delivered the workmen, and he hadn't been a really useful steam tram. Toby had to do something quickly. He asked the workmen to hit the piece of metal as hard as they could with their tools.
And I will ring my bell as loudly as I can. Someone at Great Waterton is sure to hear us and come to our rescue.
Sir Topham Hatt was waiting at Great Waterton Station. He heard the banging and Toby's bell.
Come on, Whiff. It sounds as though Toby's in trouble.
Sir Topham Hatt arrived on Whiff.
Toby, what are you doing here?
Toby felt very silly.
I'm sorry, sir. I ran out of coal because I wanted to find something special. I thought then you would think I'm as special as the other engines.
But Toby, you are special.
But only when I'm really useful. I know that now.
You'll always be special. You're the oldest steam tram on Sodor.
Toby felt very happy.
Now, let's fetch Rocky and get that old metal to the smelters.
Rocky quickly lifted the metal out of the bushes. Toby gasped, and so did Sir Topham Hatt. On the other side of the metal was a picture of a steam tram. It looked just like Toby.
Toby, you have found the sign for the old Great Waterton tram shed.
Toby's pistons popped with pride.
Now that's special.
And Toby couldn't have felt happier to be a steam tram.
But I must get the puppet show to the children.
So Skarloey clattered on. Skarloey was puffing towards Percival Pond. Then there was trouble. Skarloey went round the bend too fast. He steamed into a siding. Skarloey bashed through the buffers. And with a splash, a sploosh, and a splosh, Skarloey plunged into Percival Pond.
whistling fireboxes. I wanted to pull the puppet show special on my own. Now look what I've done. The children won't have ice cream or flags. They won't have their puppet show. Help!
But there was no one to hear. Then Skarloey heard a whistle he knew. That's Rheneas, he thought. Rheneas puffed to the edge of Percival Pond. Skarloey had never been happier to see his friend.
I puffed as quickly as I could. I thought you might need my help. And I do. I wanted to show you that I was the strongest. But all I've shown you is that I'm the silliest.
But Rheneas was happy to help. Slowly, Rheneas heaved and hauled his friend out of the pond. At last, Skarloey was back on the rails. But his firebox was out, and his coal was wet.
Rheneas, you must take the puppet show to the children.
I have other jobs to do.
Me? Thank you, Skarloey.
And Rheneas puffed proudly away with the puppet show special. Skarloey had a lot to do. He delivered new cars of ice cream to Rusty. Then Skarloey found Duncan. Duncan's cars were now filled with the bunting.
I'm going to be late for the puppet show. Don't worry, Duncan. I'll help you. We'll steam to the showground in no time.
Duncan and Skarloey arrived just in time. The children were gathered round the puppet show. Welcome, everyone, to the first puppet show in the hills. The children cheered. Skarloey puffed up to Rheneas.
You're my best friend, Rheneas. And there's nothing stronger than friendship.
With a crash and a bang, Thomas and Diesel smashed Harry and Bert right through the back of the engine sheds. Stones and timber flew everywhere. Bust my buffers. Uh-oh. Then Henry arrived.
I've come to collect my train. Your train isn't ready.
Then the yard manager arrived.
Thomas, you have pushed Mavis off the rails, and Harry and Bert through the back of the engine shed.
Thomas felt worse than ever. Oh no, it's all my fault. I should have done my job and not raced against Diesel.
Come on, let's have one more race.
No, Diesel, I have an important job to do. Thomas puffed over to Henry. I'll fill your cars as fast as I can. Your train will soon be ready. And Thomas chuffed quickly away. Thomas felt terrible. I must work very hard to put everything right, he thought to himself. Thomas shunted the cars under the hopper. Soon they were all filled. And Henry huffed happily away with his train. Then Thomas collected Rocky. Rocky lowered Mavis back onto the tracks. I'm sorry I bashed you. I was trying to win a race. Mavis was relieved to be back on the track. Next, Thomas shunted Rocky over to the sheds. Harry and Bert were soon back on the rails. I'm sorry I biffed you. I should have done my job instead of trying to be the fastest. Then Diesel rolled in. We must clear all the cars of broken stones.
Yeah, sure, Thomas.
At last, the freight cars were loaded with broken rubble from the sheds. So together, Thomas and Diesel shunted the freight cars as quickly as they could. Finally, all the jobs were done.
We still don't know who's the fastest. Let's have another race.
All right, but this time we must go forwards. So the two engines raced away to the quarry gates. And they both arrived together.